Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. Yes, we are back with one of those amazing conversations on the Kingdom Marriage series. We're on episode 3, and listen, it's been great so far, but I know you're seeing some familiar faces on your screen. Yes, I have Lex and Lev with me today. If you missed part 1, you need to go back and watch it, but watch it after you watch this, okay? We're going to be talking today. Like, don't go there now, like, go there after, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're going to be chopping it up today. And we're going to be having a really good conversation around marriage. If you don't know their story, a quick synopsis. You know, in part 1 we spoke about how Lex and Lev also were married previously in another previous marriage, obviously, and I'll let them explain a bit more about how we got into the second part, which we're going to discuss today, which is that they also are now in their second marriage, right? Now there's some moving components that happened before we got to that place. So before you get religious, before you get your Bible out and start, you know what I'm saying to you? Pay attention to the story. I don't want to say too much, because I want you to pay attention to the story, to how we got here, so that you understand where we're coming from. But for those of you who are listening, thank you for joining us today. Make sure you share this live with somebody. And I hope you're enjoying some of these conversations around the faith of Christianity and around marriage, and navigating that space as well. So if you are in a mindset, or if you want to get married, or you're thinking about it, listen, this is going to be a great series to kind of join us on. There's going to be more great guests as well. But for now, focus here. I want you to listen to the story. I think this is powerful. I think it's amazing. All right. So I'm going to introduce my lovely guests. They are wonderful, wonderful people. We've had to chop it up. We're going to laugh. We're going to joke and tell some real stories as well. How are we doing, Lex and Lev?
Good. Great. Happy Thursday. Is it still Thursday for you?
It's Thursday. You're right.
Okay. Yes. Thursday. Happy Thursday.
Yeah. No, we're excited to be here, man. You family. After last time, it was like, yo, you know what? He's honorary cousin.
Right.
And whenever he comes to the States, we just pray that we can link up with him, and or when we come to your neck of the woods,
right.
Let me know.
And maybe we do like a big meet and greet, or just a small intimate coffee setting. It don't matter.
Some
like what?
You know I like it.
Tea and crumpets.
Tea and crumpet. I wish I ate crumpets, but I do drink the tea. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. No, we're good. We're excited to be here. For those who are watching, can y'all do me a huge favor if you're watching live, or maybe if you're part of the replay squad? Mm-hmm. Take this link and share it with at least one person who's been talking about getting married, or been divorced, or widow. Just do me a huge favor. I promise you, I'll give you a virtual hug. Church hug, though.
Right, from the side.
From the side.
That's a wise move, because
you
know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Abstain from all appearances of evil. We don't want no trouble. Well, listen, look. You know, last episode that we had, I mean, with yourselves on part 1, you were the first on the series as well, so God bless you. And we spoke at depth. You know, we explored how you guys actually met. It was a wonderful story as well. And like I said, for the audience, if you don't know that story, go and watch part 1 after this. I wanna jump us straight into something, because I think we talked a lot about how we met, and we talked a little bit around about your journey, a little bit about how you got to that place. I want to go backwards though. You know, because I think it's really important to kind of be able to understand you guys' story individually and how you got to this place. And because you both have very powerful testimonies of how I believe God maneuvered you through very difficult times and difficult seasons to get to that place. And your stories are different, but similar in a sense, right? So, you know, I don't know where I should start. Would you go Lex? I go Lev. Who do I go first? You know,
ladies first.
Ladies first. Yeah, you're right.
Ladies first.
Right. Let the ladies go first. Okay, so Lex.
Yes, sir.
If people don't know, they don't know maybe the story. If they don't know, but they'll have to find out. But I want to throw them straight in.
Okay.
You were in a previous marriage, okay,
right.
And your partner actually passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And within Christendom, someone might quote, Romans 7, in terms of being able to remarry, etc., etc. But we don't talk about necessarily the journey and maybe the story that the person has to go through to get to that particular space. So I would love to kind of get your mindset in terms of, you were in a marriage for a few years and your partner passed away. How did God restore you? Because if I'm really honest, I remember I dated somebody and their mother passed away, and I remember the damage it was, not just for her, but for also the husband too. And it was difficult. So I want to know how did God restore you to even have faith again, to want to get married again, to even think about that? What was happening to you at the time, unfortunately, when your partner passed?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much going on around that time when the car accident happened. And so, what happened in the aftermath of his passing, there was a lot left unsaid, a lot of obviously shattered pieces of my future, my hopes, my dreams. I mean, my life partner is gone. And as we know, once you get married, you become one. And so I always felt when he left, a very significant piece of me left too. And for me, I because of my previous life experiences, I defaulted to heavy survival mode, which was I'm just going to find one thing to focus on and nothing else, which was my son. So all of my focus went into going to work, being a provider, being a mom, and I just didn't talk about it. I didn't talk about it. I sold our home together. I moved to an apartment. Like it was almost as if I tried to compartmentalize something that was never intended to be compartmentalized. And so for the first year, I I mean, I had my moments of sadness, but if I'm being honest, I didn't really allow myself permission to grieve. And what ended up happening was I got to the end of myself. I had literally neglected myself for the first year that I almost found myself like having a mental breakdown. And it was in that moment where God was like, "Okay, are you ready to be honest? Are you ready to let me in?" Because when I was going through that process, I I never really doubted God. Like I always had faith in God, but I lost trust. Like God, I believe that you're real. I believe that um your is in this, but I feel like I can't trust you to do what's best for me because this is not the outcome I would have picked. And so after that first year, I really just had to come to a complete point of surrender to say, I'm actually not okay. I'm actually like really not good. And God, I don't have much to offer, but this is what I do have. And it was in that moment I got a call from my cousin, actually the same one we're going to go see. And she told me like, "Hey, why don't you come out?" I was living in Miami at the time. She asked me to come to Denver just to have a change of scenery. And a 3-day trip turned into a 1-week trip. And on my way back to Miami, as soon as that plane hit that runway back in Miami, I heard for the first time in my life the audible voice of God say to me, "Your healing isn't going to happen here." And I packed up and moved, and the rest is history. I mean, from there, God met me every single time I called on him. And it was a continuous process, but that was the initial thing of where the restoration started. I mean, from there, the rest was in God's hands, but I had to get to the point where I allowed myself to be in his hands.
Wow. I mean, you know what it is? I think I remember I spoke with dear future wife about this. One of my greatest fears is actually having my partner pass. It's like anything else, like cheating, okay, but you passing is
Yeah.
like that fear is huge. And I'm obviously even just a couple of years ago, me and God were having chopping up about a conversation about what I believe that God was going to do for me, right?
Mhm.
Concerning a particular partner, and it went the way that he told me it was going to go, but I interpreted it differently. And I can tell you this now,
Mhm.
that thought process I had towards God was like, I can't trust you. So I would love to know, in that space where you felt like you could not, because losing a person, I'm sure that you might have had moments where you're like, you know what, yeah, who's this God that I'm saying? Because you know what I mean? Like, I know people like to put the theology of like, you know what, God can do whatever he wants, and I know, but when you're in that moment,
Yeah.
you know, how do you rebuild trust? Because I know he said that he was going to restore when you touched down, but how do you hold on to that trust with God? If if you even got to hold on to that trust, if you know what I mean, how do you regain that?
Yeah. So what happened was not only did God have to reintroduce himself to me, but I had to, and we heard this at this conference we attended, and I loved it because it's so true. God had to reshape my theology around suffering. Like, just because God allows us to suffer doesn't mean that he's not sovereign, doesn't mean that he's not good. The Bible talks about like it pleased God, he marveled God to see Jesus suffer. And I think as Christians, sometimes we think like, because I'm suffering, I must be being punished for something, or God doesn't love me, or God doesn't care about me, or God is not concerned. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
That's really not true. And so I had to learn, and God had to bring into my remembrance all of the times when I didn't know how I was standing, walking down the hospital hallway. Like I remember vividly, there was one time I was walking towards ICU, walking towards his room, because he had a car accident in May and he passed away in August. So it was a 3-month process. From the time of the accident to the time of his passing. And I just remember one specific time, I didn't know how I was physically standing, physically walking down the hallway. And in my prayer time, in my prayer closet, God was like, remember that time? Like that was me. That was my angels helping you. Like really reframing that shape work around, just because I don't get the outcome that I want doesn't mean that God's not in it. Once that started to happen, I was like, oh, okay, I do trust your sovereignty. I do trust your omnipresence. And I trust that even if it doesn't come out the way that I want to, your love you're still faithful. You're still good. And that has been probably the second most life-changing experience that I've had was reshaping that theology around suffering.
I love that as well, and I definitely hear that. It's one of the most eye-opening things about Christendom, and maybe something that I don't like hearing about, but I know it's true. It is that the Bible actually speaks a lot about suffering, and having to suffer as well. So you know, a lot of times we're blessed with the luxury of life, but there's suffering that is involved because, you know, God, first and foremost, it is about Jesus, it is about God. And if Christ, the high priest, has gone through what suffering he's gone through, you know what I mean? That our lives are not promised that it's going to be so smooth. We're still happening to the disciples. So absolutely true about that as well. I guess I've got an adjacent question then for you, Lev, because someone else might be thinking from a different perspective, right? Maybe this is my perspective. I've always wondered, how then do you come into a marriage knowing that the other party has lost somebody, because you can't replace that person, and you never will. Like, so how do you come into that situation? What's your mindset when you have to go into a marriage that way? Because it's very different. I'm just intrigued to know how someone goes into that space as well.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, I'm never in competition with nobody. Let me just be very clear. Like, I'm very comfortable in my own skin. My wife will tell you, like,
almost too comfortable.
and I've been this way my entire life, Kojo. Like, my entire life. So as a kid, because I want to like give depth to this answer, because as a kid, when everyone would go right, I would go left. Like, that's just who I am at nature. So meeting Alexis and meeting Mason and understanding, man, she lost her husband. I'm like, why would I feel insecure about someone who's with Jesus? Like, why would I feel inadequate or awkward? I'm like, this man is with Jesus. He's already won the race, unfortunately, prematurely, right? But he's with Jesus, and I'm here living to get to Jesus. So that was my first thing. Like, I'm not going to trip on his memory, his legacy, his name, his photo, none of that, right? Because, man, he's where we want to be, right? That's number one. So that's number two, because number one, I'm just not that guy. It's not in my DNA to do that. But thirdly, I wanted her and I wanted our son to know that I'm never coming to erase that, because I think that would be, I think it's disrespectful to try to come into a new marriage and like wipe away the old. To me, it would be, because I always look at if the shoe was on the other foot. So like right now, my brother James is watching, right? And I always told him when I was married the first time, and even with her, I said, bro, if anything ever happens to me, just take care of my family. So I'm thinking like, if I was him, how would I want the next guy to come along and steward my family? So I've never, ever, 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 ever felt any type of way about his legacy. If anything, I want to lead it and champion it. And I think it takes a special person to fit these shoes well.
It does.
You can't just come into this like, and I'll give you an example, Coach. I'll give you this is real life, right? So there's a certain type of television show I like to watch. I love me some Chicago PD, some Chicago Med, some Chicago Fire. Outside of her sometimes not liking the acting, I know that those shows can be triggering to her. So if I'm being real with you, Kojo, I may have watched Chicago Med maybe 2 or 3 times in 2.5 years, where I may watch 2 or 3 episodes a day. So as an example, I know that it triggers my wife, it triggers my son. I choose not to enjoy those type of things. So it's not just ain't no big deal. It's like I have to be proactive. There's certain things I don't talk to my wife about. You know, hey babe, if I leave here, this is what I want you to do. We don't even go there because I'm sensitive to that with her.
I understand.
You know, I'm sensitive when she say, hey, go to the doctor. I'm sensitive to those things. And I can be like, no, I'm good. But I know I need to do it to bring peace for her. I need to bring security to her. I need to go the extra mile for her because she's lost someone already. Just like she's sensitive to me when it comes to the loss that I have with my dad. You know what I mean? So it's just being respectful, being honorable. It just comes natural for me. And I don't feel like it's ever made a difference. But let me say, it never brought anything negative to our relationship and to our marriage. If anything, she can come and say, hey, I'm grieving my late husband. And I'm going to hold her and we're going to go through that moment together. And I don't feel any type of way. I don't know how to express that, Kojo, more than what I have.
You express
know what I mean?
And I think if I could just add to that, because I'm actually surprised we didn't say it, was I remember one time Lev said to me, he's like, you know, it never occurred to me that my mom was a widow until I met you.
Yep.
And I'm like, what do you mean by that? But I think, like Lev had alluded to, him losing his father at an early age, I think that experience instilled in him a level of compassion around grief and loss that he probably, I'm not talking to you, Siri, that he probably, as I'm listening, probably isn't even aware or conscious of just like that innate sensitivity, especially around grief and loss, that just, again, like God just orchestrated it so beautifully, because I don't think a lot of people, and I know a lot of people can't handle that, because how do you help someone that's grieving someone that's not here per se?
Yeah, and I'll even take us to a step further, Coach, to even speak to the audience at why, right? So not only are there not a lot of men who could do it, a lot, even me, Coach, let me just keep it so honest with you, bro. Before I went through my divorce, I said I'll never date a woman with kids. That was my thing. Like, I'm not dating no woman because I ain't raising nobody else's kids. And it wasn't because I was like, you know, a jerk about it. Because I lost my dad at a young age, I wanted to have a family of my own. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, I feel the Holy Ghost. Here's the thing, man. When you put God in your situation, when you let God work out everything, I get to parent Mason and teach him and help him navigate losing his dad because I lost mine. And let me tell you something, Kojo, when people see me and him together, or they see all of us, they're like, they can't tell that I'm not his biological father. Like when we go to the barbershop, the first thing, like, man, he look just like you. I'm like, okay. All right, praise the Lord. Yeah, we got some big heads. That's about it. We both black. That's about it. Yeah. And so for me, it was just like, even now, people are like, that's not your son. And they just marvel. And we act just alike. Not because he watched me and image, it's just our natural disposition, personality is so much the same. So you can't tell me God didn't bring us together. Mm-hmm. And that's where, if I could encourage any guy out there or anyone that's thinking about dating or marriage and you have a similar situation, don't be scared to love this person again. Mm-hmm. She's been loved before. I get to love her again. I get to love him again and father him again. So it's just like I'm so unaware. I'm so unaware because it's just like I don't see anything different. I don't see anything different.
Okay, so talk to me, Lev. So we spoke a little bit about Lex, and I'll come back to Lex and go a bit deeper again. But for you, Lev, obviously, you were also married, and we know, in the Christian faith, the rocks are ready for you. On the same issue, Lex has a reason, but for you, they're gonna be like, no, you, sir, couple rocks are ready for you to go. Talk to us a little bit, and you explained it in part one, but talk to us a little bit about your journey then, in terms of, like, I would like to use this word. How did you get to a place of feeling worthy to be married again? Because the first time, obviously, it quote unquote, it didn't work. Right. So, you know what I mean? And so talk to us about your journey of getting to a place of worthiness to be like, okay, I'm ready to get married again, and not actually being, how do I say, critical of yourself in terms of maybe not getting it right the first time, or certain things that were not going right when you look back in it. What was your journey like in getting to that place?
Man, those are great questions. So many things happened in that process. So when I got a divorce, I never thought I was going to get a divorce. But looking back on it, I didn't do anything to prevent it either. You know what I mean? I prayed. You know what I'm saying? I did the church stuff that you're supposed to do, but I didn't do the inner work. I didn't do the work with, my ex-wife to fix that thing. Well, I tried. Let me not say that. I tried. I went to therapy. I did, but I didn't do what I do now. You see what I'm saying? So when I got divorced, and again, shout out to my brother James who's watching. He's been my best friend since the first grade. He was my best man in that wedding. Like, he was right there. He can he can vouch for me on all of which I'm about to say. When I got married the first time, I took it serious, and I think a little too serious, right? I think I took it a little too serious, right? I was trying to make I was so rigid, bro. I was so rigid. So looking back on it, I can understand why she would be like, I don't want to get tripping. You know what I mean? Like, he's so rough and rigid. And once I got the divorce, what made it, I think, more hurtful is that we were both in ministry together, serving at the same level, very visible in ministry. So when I got a divorce, the first thing that, man, I can sometimes relive the pain of, I let God down. I remember crying to the Lord, like, I'm so sorry I let you down. I remember going to my pastor and saying, I let you down. So I wasn't necessarily tripping about the divorce. I was hurt that I let everybody around me down. And I let myself down. So it was that pain because I was so angry with her. And so, like, all right, just end this, because it was so bad. I wasn't hurt of losing her. I was hurt of the people who I felt I let down. Even my mom. And when I got divorced, it was during COVID. So I didn't go to court. All of that was crazy. Like, the world was shut down. Like, we got divorced over Zoom. And then when I get there, the lady tells me, you didn't even have to show up. Why are you here? Like, it was crazy, right? It was crazy. And I did my court hearing at work. I was on my lunch break getting divorced. So it was like so much craziness going on. I didn't even process it initially. I was too busy dealing with disappointing everybody. And then I had a friend of mine who would call me every single day, Richard Taylor Jr., and he helped me navigate my emotions. He's in the mental health space, so I had a therapist. So I was navigating that. I was just embarrassed. I was disappointed that I was disappointing people. And like my life was crazy back then. But like when you go through divorce, and I tell anybody, wrap your arms around those people who are going, regardless who you feel is at fault, because we always pick sides. But you need to love on both parties. So I was like, I had a job, lost a job, had a job, lost a job, and moved. So, man, my process was like all over the place, but yet I had community. I had community. That was that, man. When I say that, if I didn't have community, I don't think I would have taken my life, but I would not have tried love again if I didn't have community. Because Richard, he went through a similar divorce, and some of the things that was going on in my marriage was going on in his first marriage. And he got married again, and I'm like, man, I felt like Lena and Richard was just like the perfect couple. I said, oh, you had to get rid of the old to get the new, so you can do it. I said, you know what I'm saying? You feel me? So for me, it gave me hope. He gave me hope. My pastors gave me hope. People who have been through marital issues gave me hope. My therapist gave me hope. And I wanted to be married again. I wanted to get it right. So I was willing to do whatever it needed to happen for me to experience what I have now. And whether that was therapy, whether that was accountability, whether that was, whatever. I was like, yo, I don't care who knows. I don't care what people think. Like I don't care. I want to love again. I don't want to be single for the rest of my life. I deserve love. I deserve to give love. So that was part of my process. I don't think you heard some of that stuff before. I think you did, but yeah, man. It was all over the place. But God was faithful, man. God is faithful. God is so faithful, man. That's why I don't care what nobody's talking about when they're like, oh, you remarried and you can, man, go kick rocks. God is faithful. No, I'm telling you, man, God is faithful. God will bless you. God will give you a second chance. And I'll say this, Coach O, we can move on. My pastor at the time, I didn't spend a lot of time with him because he was also her pastor, right? And I didn't want to put him in a position. I didn't want to vent to him, open up to him and all that, because I didn't want to compromise that. But one day we got together during COVID. We were getting gloves and masks to give out to the church members. So we were at the church, and he gave me a prophetic word. He said, God said, go and read Genesis 22. So if there's anybody here watching now, you want a second chance, whether at love, at life, at any promise of God, Genesis 22. And it talks about Abraham sacrificing Isaac. Now listen, I read that thing, and I'm talking about different translations, bruh. I went to my pastor. I said, Pastor, God ain't saying nothing to me. You told me to go home and read this.
Yeah.
I pulled him on.
It's not revealing what it's supposed to reveal.
Hey, Pastor, how you doing? What? Praise the Lord.
Pull up real quick.
Where you at? I'm on my way. You know what I mean? And loving me as he is, he just laughed at me. He said, son, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I didn't know what that scripture meant until I found her. You see what I'm saying? The promise of marriage, God had a sacrifice for me. He gave me a second chance to keep the promise. And you see what I got right here. You see what I got right here. No, seriously, he had a ram in the thicket for me. He said, go to Boulder. Go to this conference. And you guys go back and watch the first part to know a little bit more of what I'm talking about. And she talking to me, and I turned my back. Holy Spirit says, so you just gonna treat her like that? After all we've been through to get you healthy, to get you to this point, I'm bringing you to your promise, and you about to act like that? What, you don't clean up? Oh, Lord, hey, how are you? How are you, Miss Fine Thing?
Right.
And here we are today.
You almost missed it.
Almost fumbled the bag, man.
By turning your back. Man.
Jesus. Yeah. Man.
Okay, I have a question. A question. So you said obviously you were rigid.
Yes.
So I want to know what was informing this rigidity. Why were you so rigid? Because I've been rigid, so I know. You know what I mean. So, but I want to know why were you feeling so rigid?
Man, so if I can, I was feeling rigid because number one, how I was raised,
Okay.
and the environment that I was in, and not that I was raised in necessarily a rigid environment per se. I don't think
Hmm.
my mom or anything. It was just that I was putting pressure on. I've always put pressure on myself,
Mm,
not knowing that's what I was doing, and I never wanted to mess up. You know what I'm saying? I remember, wow, I remember hearing the stories about my dad, and I said, I'll never be like him.
yeah.
I remember him,
Trust me.
being on drugs later towards the end of his life. And so people talk about marijuana and weed. I'm like, no, I don't want parts of it.
Yep.
Like I took that dare program of it was a gay, it was a
Just say
gay
no.
just say no.
Yeah.
Like I took it to heart because I didn't want to be. So I said, I gotta be better. I gotta be. Da, 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 da. So when I got married, I remember, man, Coach, this is gonna make y'all laugh.
James said, "Yeah, tell them about that rigidness."
He know, James. No, I told y'all. He know the truth. And James, man, James would be the one like, man, you can let your hair down, man. Like, no, I can't do this. Y'all go skip school. I'm gonna stay in class. You know what I mean? But like, it was like this, Kojo. I just didn't want to be like my dad,
I hear it.
so I wanted to do everything right. Now, when it came to my marriage,
Same.
it translated to my marriage. I remember saying something like, "I'm the man of my house," and when I said it, I was like, no, "You know, like God's the head of your house." You know what I mean? Like, and it was just like it was a rigidness. Like I wanted everything to be right. I wanted everything to go right. I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to do any of that. So I've had to learn to go with the flow and give myself grace. I'm literally learning that now.
That
So it's
compassion.
still a process, right? It's still a process to where my wife had to say, "Babe, it's okay not to cut the grass today."
Right.
And I'm talking about I'm about to fall out. And she's like, "Go lay down."
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to say it's okay to be okay, or it's okay not to be okay.
Mhm.
So I think the rigidness, and I know it's a lot in men, especially black men, we are rigid because we feel like we gotta perform. We gotta perform. And I just want to encourage someone today, you don't have to perform. You don't. Do your best and rest. Do your best and rest.
That's good. Thing.
Yeah.
Mm. Lex, for you, obviously, hearing obviously Levers, like you said, the rigidity and wanting to perform. Did you ever feel like, before obviously Lev, that you had to perform or you had to be rigid or?
Yep.
Did you?
Just a little bit.
Y'all funny. I'm over here seeing the comments too.
Yes.
Was that for you as well? Did you ever feel like you had to perform? You had to, because for women it's different as well. Well, not different, but it's like you guys get a lot of ladies. Sorry, you get a lot of pressure, society, to kind of be this perfect wife, Christian woman that So did you feel like you had to perform, and what was that like for you?
Yes. So for me, it was being the firstborn. So that traditional, like, carrier of the responsibility, caretaking for a younger sibling. I grew up where there was addiction in my household as well. So the traditional, adult child of an alcoholic type situation. So there's this hyper performance. And then I also grew up in a denomination of Christianity that was very performative and transactional, without, I don't, we're not bashing anybody here, but for me and for my experience, the way that God was initially presented to me was you do X and God does Y. Or if you don't do X, you better hope he doesn't do Y. And there is this transaction versus relationship. And so that definitely translated into my first marriage, unbeknownst to me. I mean, there was a lot that in my healing process I had to reflect back on, repent for, and just forgive myself about. And then in this marriage, I've had to learn what does performance actually look like, and is that something that's even relevant? For you mentioned perfectionism, and I remember being taught or being told, like, perfectionism is what you do when when man is watching. Excellence is what you do when God is watching. And so when I had that understanding of, okay, what does excellent for me as a wife look like today? May not be perfect, but it's everything that I have to give today. As a mother, it may not be perfect. I may not, take the crust off of the bread. You might be taking a Uncrustable today. For those of you in the States, you know what I'm talking about. But hey, I packed a lunch. I did what I could. And it's that very grace that says, Lord, I'm doing what I can within the strength that I have, with the knowledge that I have, um, being led by your spirit, and allowing your good to be good enough. Like that has been the thing for me when it comes to still today, even combating, performative action or perfectionism.
Yes, because performance is. Some of us have been in it for so long performing that it almost becomes it is second nature.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't know what it feels like to take the mask off and
Right.
stop, performing on the stage. So that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense as well. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously for you then, Lex, then within that uh, scope now, I guess I'm going to flick back to kind of present time a little bit as well.
Mhm.
You know, as Lev has kind of shared as well, he had to go through his journey in terms of removing the performance, and you talked about
Mhm.
you're going through the performance stage as well, and how so in this present time now in this particular marriage, and I'll skip back in a bit, but in this present marriage now for you, how have you gone about removing the performance then? Because obviously,
Mhm.
again, you're now in a new setting, and of course, you might have done the work in between that. But when you get into a new setting again, you're in that
Yeah.
new place, new environment, new relationship. How do you kind of navigate the performance aspect of the
Mhm.
marriage in this case? Like you said to Lev, you don't have to cut the grass, but do you have that
Yeah.
same grace for yourself as well? Because sometimes we're performing, we're able to give people grace, but for ourselves.
Yeah.
But the coach, I was with the big
Yes. Yes. Okay. So had you asked me this question maybe like 2 weeks ago, I would be like, next question. Because it's something that the Lord is actively working with me on. Because so much of my entire identity was rooted in performance. For those of us that grew up in households where maybe there wasn't addiction, but there were just parents that didn't know how to be emotionally available. So there's no blame or fault here. It's just there was a lack of knowledge. For me, that was the case. And the only time I really got any kind of affirmation was when I was doing something. So I that's how I learned to almost receive affirmation and receive what I perceived as love is I have to be doing something.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a season of my life right now where I, I'm not doing anything, and the Lord is revealing to me, or not even revealing, but opening my eyes, taking the scales off of my eyes to say, daughter, do you recognize, like, you are good, you are loved just the way you are, by just being a human being and not a human doing. And so to bring that back to your question, like how am I working on performance? I remember there's a specifically, I was recently started reading the Bible from cover. I decided I'm going to read the Bible from cover to cover. And I was in the book of Genesis. And in the very beginning, we all know this, God saw that it was good. And it's repeated through each of the creation days. And the Holy Spirit started ministering to me and said, it doesn't say God saw that it was perfect. God saw that it wasn't flawed. Like, it doesn't say that. It said he saw that it was good. And for me, as simple as a message that it was, it became the mantra for me when I began to catch myself performing. So there were nights when I'd literally be sick, Kojo, like with a migraine, nauseous, and I'm like, man, I have to make dinner. I have to cook. I have to make sure that things are perfect when my husband gets home, to the point where I'm physically making myself sick. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have a partner that loves me. I have a partner that cares about me. And he's going to love me whether or not I put dinner on the table. If I just communicate with him, like, hey, I'm not feeling good. And so I say all that to say, like, there comes a point where you have to recognize and be vulnerable and just say, hey, this is who I am. And I just feel so blessed and fortunate to be with someone that recognizes it, even when I don't. And that ministers to me, and that helps me release this performance based concept of love, to say, actually, no, like, I'm good either way. And the second part to that is just asking myself, is it good? Like, a lot of times I'll be cooking, or I'll be working on an illustration, or just whatever it is that I'm doing. And I will work on something and work on something and work on something. I'll tweak it, I'll add a spice or whatever, until I'm looking for the perfect thing. And I've had to start asking myself, Alexis, stop. Is it good? If it's good, it's done. And that coach has been the practical piece of walking this out every day. Is it good? Most of the time, for me, 98% of the time, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That's perfect. You know what I mean? That's perfect. I think, and I'll let you jump in this, Lev, as well, because I think, as you were just saying that, I was just typing notes, because I was like, you know what? I don't know how it feels not to be perfect. And I generally have that asphyxiation as well, that, I don't know. I can look back at some relationships. I'm like, I was always fearful of making a mistake, not because of them. It's not on them. It's on me. I wanted to be the perfect partner because I didn't want to seem like I didn't care, or the real truth is, it's a fear of abandonment. Really and truly, it's a fear of rejection and abandonment, and it's masked with perfection, because I'm like, if I be perfect, you can't reject me. So when I do make a mistake, I'm really hard on myself. I'm like trying to fix it immediately, trying to do whatever, but I cannot rest in that space. I always have to be perfect. So I definitely identified with that as well. And I see you nodding your head as well, Lev. So I don't know if you want to add something to that.
I just wanted to add, like, I think, especially for those who are watching, if you're married or desire to get married, and you deal with performance or perfectionism, like, it's really good to have that vulnerable conversation with them when the time is right. Obviously not first date, but
right.
when the time is right. First date, hey, this is what I deal with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? On to the next.
Discernment.
On to the next one. But no, like, I just want to encourage people, because my wife will come to me, and there's times where I literally have to grab her, hug her, and say, "Sweet, it's okay. Like, don't trip. It's cool." Like, she's like, "Well, I didn't cook." I said, "That's why I got restaurant. Somebody else will." Like, don't trip. You know what I mean? Or, "Hey, I didn't clean this." Sweet, go lay down. I'll do the dishes. And I'm not saying this as if I'm the clean freak in the relationship, or I'm the superhuman husband. I have learned in a short period of time what makes my wife tick. So when I see that she's dealing with that perfectionism, or that performance, or that anxiety, I'm the one to say, "Sweetie, I'll do the dishes. I'll sweep them out. I'll do." And then she'll be telling me, "Hey, slow down, because I'll clean the whole house." Because I'm like, well, when I wake up, it's done. Number one. Number two, when she wakes up, it's going to do so much for her. So we have a routine that I would say we're probably 90%, maybe 85 to 90%, where the kitchen is either cleaned the night before, or early in the morning before she goes into the kitchen to make lunch for my son and for myself. And that's just to get her out of thinking she has to perform, or she has to do everything around the house to make it perfect. Like, "No, sweetie, this house needs to look like people live in it," number one. And number two, everything doesn't have to be on you. You know what I mean? Like we have a dishwasher. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes nothing to load the dishes, unload the boys. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So I just want to encourage people who are possibly married or desire to be married, find out those issues with your spouse and be proactive and cheerlead them. I'm always, she'll say, every day I'm cheerleading her.
Yeah.
Every day. There's not a day that goes by. Am I right, Sweden? Has there ever been a day that I haven't cheerleaded you?
No.
Tell me, man.
Yeah. But something I do want to add to that, especially because when we have the conversation in circles about perfectionism, this is something else that I've learned that goes hand in hand with it. It's the acceptance piece, because you brought up rejection,
Yep.
right? And so something that I've recognized is in those moments where it's yes, right? Because I know some of the ladies are like, well, he should be helping, right? But it's deeper than that for me, because it's, I appreciate the help, but there's a guilt that comes with, I didn't do it though. Like I didn't meet the expectation. And so there's been times where he'll say like, oh, I'll help you. Well, now that guilt transfers to, oh, well, now I'm not hitting the mark. So it's this weird, perfectionism is this very cynical, just, I almost want to use the word like torture device that really plays with your head, because there's no escaping it if you're not aware of what's going on. So I've had to tell myself, in addition to being vulnerable and open and saying, hey, this is what's going on with me, I've also had to learn how to accept and receive the type of love that frees you from perfectionism, the type of love that frees you from performance. And that's not just in marriage, that's
every relationship.
Even with God. Like for me, you'd want to talk about rigidness. Like there were things that happened in my first marriage that at the beginning, I didn't know how I was going to move forward, because I didn't have anyone to apologize to. I didn't have anyone to apologize to me. And I didn't know if God forgave me. And so there was this thing where it's like, I have to do to earn forgiveness, to earn love. And then even when I as I started growing in my relationship with the Lord in a new way, that was a really hard piece that I mean, it probably was a year ago that it really like finally landed. Like, Alexis, the love and forgiveness that you're looking for and acceptance that you're looking for has always been available. You have just refused to accept it, refused to receive it. And so God had to work on me too, like just being able to receive. That I think is a big piece of it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, absolutely right. That perfectionism one is a big kicker. You know, I'm just making some notes here, you know, for the dear future wifey. But anyway, but no, you know, no, I'm being serious. I'm making them notes actually, because I'm recognizing as you're talking, and this is how I usually get my revelations and the teachings that what God will give me, and I'm recognizing as you're speaking, both of you, about some of the things that are in my mind that I know are playing, but I oftentimes want to push to the side, you know. You know, the need to be supported, the need to, like you said, one, to accept myself. Anything that you accept becomes beautiful, but anything you reject will suddenly become ugly. And it's parts of me that I sometimes reject, which is why I reject it, why I push it to the side. But it's parts of those things that I push aside become problems in relationships as well. So, you know, as you're speaking, I'm hearing it, and I'm definitely tuning in as well with that. So, you know, with that perspective, for, you know, coming to that place where you're saying, for instance, accepting the help, accepting that, you know what, okay, I'm not perfect, and I can actually rest, you know, and actually not have to perform in the relationship as well. That, you know, that's going to cause a lot of freedom. So obviously then for yourself, Lex, as well, you mentioned, obviously, and I guess I'm going a bit backwards because I just, you know, I'm intrigued as always. You both actually share similarly kind of that component where the parent was having an addiction. So I wanted to find out how you coped, Lex, with that aspect. I know you've got the perfectionism, but how did you navigate those seasons? Because that is also a very difficult place to be as a child, knowing that a parent may
Yeah.
have that addiction and trying to navigate that space. Again, I'm just intrigued because obviously it's a lot of my work that I normally do, but I'm intrigued by this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about my very early childhood, from like 0 to probably 13. So
Wow.
those are our formative years. So
Absolutely.
your question about coping, I don't really have an answer because as a child, you don't really know what's going on. So you develop habits and patterns that you really almost don't even consent to because, again, you're a child.
Out. Yeah.
But I will say that as an adult and recognizing like, hey, you have some habits and tendencies and thought patterns that are rooted in coping with addiction, and you're not married to someone who has an addiction. And I've even shared this with my husband, like there's certain habits and patterns that they're not necessarily wrong, they just don't serve you in this season anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's time to let those things be, leave them where they were, and do some reprogramming, relearning for what the current season requires. So
yeah, that's huge.
Yes.
That's huge. Number one, because she's always talking to me like, babe, let that go. I think you said it. Did you say that today or yesterday?
I think it was sometime this week.
Yeah, sometime this week. She's like, there's some things that you hold on to. It doesn't serve you. Man, when somebody tells you that, it's like crushing your soul. Because you're like, but
it's crushing?
It's crushing from the perspective where it's like, I thought I needed this.
Oh.
And they're like,
let me have it.
Let me just take that. Let me just take that for you. Let me have that right there.
It's like a baby, fine. Yeah. So it's in that way where you're like, but I thought I needed that. But I think for me, growing up, a similar situation, my dad was an addict towards the end and was abusive and just not a good human being, and then ultimately taking his life. You develop coping mechanisms, like she said, not knowing, right? You don't know. You're not conscious. Like, I'm gonna grab this. You know, you're like, let me grab this. Let me grab. You just as a kid, but then you come into the knowledge of like, all right, that's not necessary, and that coping. You know, I saw it in our relationship, in our marriage, from her towards me when I'm like, sweetie, like relax, like I don't even let me not say relax, but sweetie,
we're working.
You know, we're like sweetie, it's all
she had your
good.
number marked already, boy.
Yeah, like
you ain't eating tonight.
Brother, where you sleeping at? Okay, but it's like we had to learn each other's like those coping mechanisms to help each other disarm them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Like for me, believe it or not, I'm a true introvert. Truly an introvert. I can be by myself and enjoy the company. But that is not always healthy. That's not what serves. It doesn't serve me to be a great husband or a great dad by being able to just be with myself. No, I need to make memories with her and with him daily and make small deposits. So it's like you have to either please go to therapy, or you need to go to therapy and have a spouse who can help you disarm those things and say, look, you don't need that anymore. That actually comes from the trauma responses that you have in life. So the people who watching, they may not have a parent who dealt with addiction, but maybe their parent, was passing down trauma, in a different way. So I think at the end of the day, it's trusting. It's the vulnerability, Kojo. It's especially for men, like, man, be vulnerable enough for the woman who you love, who is close to you. You know what I'm saying? Say if she tell you, like, yo, you might want to consider fixing this and addressing this, be man enough to say, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna give it a shot. And I think vice versa. My wife allows me to say, hey, you know the thing you do? I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like it at all. Can we visit why we do this? And then you're like, oh, it's because, okay. all right, well, babe, you don't have to do that anymore. And I'll do whatever I need to do to massage that trigger out.
Yeah.
So I'll do whatever it takes to make sure you don't feel angry or upset when you don't have to be. Like I'll call and let you know I'm on my way. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just those simple things. So it's really being vulnerable and preferring your spouse. And now for the single people, preferring yourself. Put you on a pedestal. Like go date you, love you, disarm you, read books, go to therapy, you know, subscribe to this YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying?
Come on now.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? Little Black
Yeah.
Book 91. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Bing,
Come
bing.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helped. It helped.
Mhm.
I'm loving seeing the comments, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
loving
what
it.
we're looking at.
Yeah,
now.
if we look to this out, we see
I see it.
keep the comments going, man. We love it. We love it. We love it.
Okay, so we've got like 10 minutes left. So for me, I'm loving what you guys say because again, like I said, I'm making notes and I'm really hearing both of your hearts on this as well. And I love what you said about also massaging each other's triggers out as well, in that space as well. So, how do you deal with? Okay, I'll ask that second question after actually. Lev, you said something right. So, because I really identify with this. I love my dad, but there's been behaviors I'm like, won't be me. I'm sorry,
Yep.
I don't like
Yep.
that. That don't work for
Yep.
me. I want to know. Obviously, for you, like you said, you were working on that. But I want to know how for you have you worked on kind of again using that word massaging out some of those behaviors that you didn't like because like you said I found that too that I'm the same the anger same way the rigidity same way the toughness of him same thing. I got a lot of his traits, you know what I'm saying to you. And I've had to look in the mirror especially and that was even before therapy, but how have you worked on that aspect for you then in terms of being able to change some of those behaviors that you saw that you didn't want to have?
Man, this is really good. And I think I can really simplify the answer. First and foremost, I started addressing it with my pastor back home. And subsequently, a lot of what I went through as a kid, he went through as a kid. So he was able to really help me navigate getting to the other side. And he would tell me the story that he would say when he was growing up, I'm never going to be like my dad. I'm never going to be like my dad. And that's what I was saying, right? But it was building rigidity. Or being rigid. And I imagine the same thing for you. But he said, when you start saying that over and over and over, here's what happens. You become like your dad, number one. And then secondly, the one, this really just blew my mind. He said, you stop living for you.
Mm.
Man, Kojo, the most freeing piece for me. He said, son, when are you going to live your life for you?
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is, I don't want to be like my dad. I don't want to be like my dad. My dad this, my dad. He said, your dad has left here. He's no longer here. You don't have to live for him. Live for you.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. And it made me think like, okay, well, what do I like? Because as a young man, when you lose your dad, however it happens, the stories you hear or the memories you have, you start to like reenact them. And sometimes it's just natural. Like you said, you have your dad's DNA. So like when I drive with my left hand. You know what I mean? That was my dad. When I chew gum, like my siblings were like, oh my God, you chew gum like that. My dad used to always chew gum. And all those things were like, I like to chew gum. Like, I like to chew gum. I ain't doing it because of him. I like honey buns. He like honey buns. I like things because I like things. So the best way to get free from the daddy issues is recognize like, man, yeah, it happened and I wish that it didn't, but I gotta live for me. I gotta want to have a beautiful wife, not because I want to prove to him that I can get a beautiful wife. I want a beautiful wife for me. You know what I'm saying? I like what I got. You feel me? So you just gotta live for you. So that's like the first part. And the second part, when it's dealing with those issues, like, yeah, you are your dad. That's just part of who you are. And you have to have radical acceptance.
Yeah. I love
that. This makes you who you are, but you're not him.
Come on.
I'm not my dad. All my family, especially on my dad's side, they're like, you got all the best traits of your dad. they always tell me, you got all the good traits of your dad. I'm like, oh, okay. But I got a mama too. You know what I'm saying? My mama nice, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, at the end of the day, I would encourage anybody first live for you, but just have radical acceptance. Like, yes, it is. It's my DNA, but that doesn't mean I have to go in that direction. That doesn't mean that that's my disposition. Man, I'm trying to take it to the next level, And I believe firmly in my spirit that my dad is happy. Like, man, my son did it. My son's doing it. He's doing a better job at life than I did at his age. So I'm just thankful, man, and I get to share all these experiences with my lovely wife. Man. It makes it fun, especially when you deal with the matters of the heart with each other. It makes life easier, for sure, for sure.
I love that. All right, cool. Listen, we've got a few minutes, so let me lighten it a little bit. So I've got a few questions that are going to be off the top of my dome. So
let's go.
Yeah. So quick fire questions. What one thing that makes you smile? One thing, doesn't even have to be each other. Just one thing that makes you smile.
Yeah. You want to go first?
No, go ahead, babe.
Something that makes me smile is when, honestly, it's gonna sound, it's just really coming home to my wife and my son. Okay. Like Mason meets me at the door, literally every day. Like the door isn't closed before he's hugging me. He's hugging me, and I don't even have the door closed yet. That's every single day. And then I get to see her. Man, whatever I dealt with prior to that, it's cool. So that makes me smile. I look forward to that every single time I come home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's man. I kid you not. I promise. Before he said that, I was thinking that when I get to see Mason and Lev having their moments where they're bonding, they're connecting, because I know how much it means to both of them. So like, for example, Mason loves sports, loves to watch the football game, and he'll be asking Alexa, like, Alexa, is there a football game on tonight? And he'll be ready and waiting for Lev to come home from work. And it really warms my heart, because I remember a time when I didn't know if that was going to happen, if that was ever going to be a reality. And it's just sweet to see how they like banter and go back and forth. And sometimes I just have to walk away, to be honest. But just the fact that they're having that moment that really it makes me smile with my heart. It really does.
Yeah. That's my guy, man. Y'all got to meet Mason. Trust me. Yeah. He's going to have his own YouTube channel very, very soon.
Yeah.
He's running it at this point.
Man, we're going to teach you how to edit, and it's all.
Right.
All right. What is one thing about each other that makes you laugh? So what's one thing that the other person does that you just start laughing to yourself? You know what I mean? One thing
I can't say it. I can't say that one.
What? No, don't say that.
Don't worry, the Holy Spirit gonna snitch. Don't worry.
Not on the sofa, outside.
The Holy Spirit gonna snitch. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. One thing that makes me happy, makes me smile, makes me laugh with my wife, man. I don't know. It's like we just have our own sense of humor to things. Our sense of humor has started to blend, and we just laugh at stuff that nobody would get. Yeah. But what makes me laugh with my wife is I want to say it so bad.
Don't.
Yeah. But it's just when we make a mistake. If we make a mistake in front of each other, we own it. We own each other's head. Oh, okay. So I cooked one time, Kojo, and I was trying to be romantic.
He was.
Romantic. I said,
it was very romantic.
You ain't gotta cook. I got this. Mm-hmm. And that salmon was so dry, and man, she laughed at me. She laughed
at the same thing.
She didn't laugh at you.
You laughed with me. Okay.
You laughed at the salmon, not him.
Yeah, she laughed at the salmon. So when we make mistakes, we know did you see that? So right. We won't get it. We make mistakes, and we're like, I hope she didn't see it, and she'll see it, and we just start laughing. Yeah. But that's the newest thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for me, it's the times when he's not being funny, but he thinks he is, that I'm just like, that's so precious.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
You thought you had it, but you didn't. It's so
Right,
cute.
it's okay. And I love how comfortable my husband is in his own skin to the point where, dare I say, I even envy it a little bit sometimes. Like, I want to be that comfortable in my skin. And so just seeing his joy, even if he's like doing it by himself, I'm like, you know what? I can't help but laugh. I surrender. And it makes me happy to see him happy, but it's funny to me. And it makes me smile. And I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it, but okay.
I told y'all I do my own stand-up routine and make me laugh. Like, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
I love that. All right, a few more quick questions.
Sure.
Light ones. Who takes the longest in the shower?
You want to tell the truth? Share the devil.
Well, I mean, we're all grown here, so I'll say that we take the same amount of time. Y'all can read between the lines. It's a tie.
I know you lied. She said, and then she scratched her neck. When you do this,
if
you better tell the whole lie.
to do it, it's her. Okay,
What you mean?
Sweetheart. Do you want me to give details?
No.
Okay, then. All I'm gonna say is, and men, fellas, y'all gonna feel me on this. We do what we have to do from head to toe, and we out of
Move
it.
fast. Yeah.
You feel me? We ain't got a lot to work with. You see what I'm saying?
True.
Women got a lot to work with, so they got to get everywhere,
Pampered up,
multiple times. The water be hot as fish grease.
Why is that women have the water on the hottest the Sahara Desert? Bro, I've been coming in there and the waters are pelleting on fire. Bro, Sodom and Gomorrah in there. Hot fire so far. Damn.
Hades.
Bro, it don't make no sense.
Not Sodom and Gomorrah.
Listen,
Like sulfur's raining from the sky.
Yes. And
I don't get it.
Romantic. You want to just step in there while she's doing her thing. You like,
bro. Even that tss, tss.
brother.
You just gotta leave them to it.
Ladies, can I get some help, please? Because
back hair singed off.
Dramatic.
You see
I don't be doing that, bro.
To answer that accurately without answering it.
Amen.
Boom.
They take long. I hear you.
They got like 3 different soaps, 8 different face washes. And I'm like, I got the same soap from head to toe. I may shave. Why not? So that's to let y'all know. I ain't saying no names.
Whatever. We get in and out at the same time. So it's the same amount of time.
Praise the Lord.
All right. I like that. Okay. Who is out of the two of you? Who is a better driver?
Oh, that's me, hands down.
Her face said no.
Hands down.
A better driver?
Hands.
Okay. You know what? I will give that. I interpreted your question differently.
How did you interpret?
Who's a more saved driver?
Saved like in
She said the Spirit of the Lord is on the car.
Yeah. Who drives with God as their co-pilot?
Listen, he's on the inside of me. It's a righteous indignation. It's the wrath of God all mixed in one, and that's all good. Like I get heated quicker than she does, but overall, you safe with me. Not saying that you're not safe with her, but you safe with your boy. I'm gonna get us there in one piece.
He sounds like a Formula 1 driver. Okay, next question.
Right.
Next question. You sound like you one of the Formula 1 drivers. Okay. Who is? Okay, well, actually, wait. Let me not say because I think we know who the better chef is. But let's say, what is each other's signature dishes? What is each other's signature dishes? What is each other's signature?
Yeah, I know Lex.
Why you Yeah.
Because I'm
Because you know
confident
yours.
in my answer. Yeah.
What's your
What's the
signature
signature
dish? Ladies, go first.
dish?
What's Lev's signature?
No, no,
Yeah.
no. What's your
No,
signature
the
dish?
question was, what is your signature? Do
Yeah.
I know what
She needs,
your
does she know
signature
your
is?
signature dishes?
All right. Well, I know hers. Any and everything that she cooks. Signature chef's kiss. Birria tacos, though. Birria tacos. Top of the list for me.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's only because I have yet to find a Dominican grocery store in Dallas.
Fair enough.
So
Mm-hmm.
he hasn't tried any of my Dominican food yet, but
Yeah, I need some mofongo,
there
some
you go.
plantains, or some plantains.
Plátano, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, very okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I want to hear what you about to say. 'Cause you better not say what I think you about to say. But go ahead. Praise the Lord.
She gonna
Go
say
ahead.
something like meatballs.
She gonna say something. I know what she gonna say. I know
I
what she gonna
was
say. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So
Go ahead. Say
the
it. You know I say it.
Flint tacos.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say something different, but yes. Yep,
Yeah.
Flint tacos. Yeah.
It's the signature.
What is Flint tacos?
Signature. So I'm from Flint, Michigan. Shout out to James. He put it in the chat. He already knows. So Flint tacos is where we use either ground beef or ground turkey, preferably ground turkey. Ground beef, but
Damn.
we use ground turkey. Yeah, it's nasty. It's so good. You cook your taco meat, but you got to season the meat well. The secret is in the seasoning of the meat. So then you take your shell and you fry it for like 2 seconds on each side. Once you get that done, you put the meat on one side of the taco and you flip it and make a taco and you fry the meat in the shell in like a skillet. So it's not deep fry, but it's fried. You put your cheese in there. It's giving like life.
It's giving. I'm gonna be breathing heavy after.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's definitely big bag food.
Yeah, big bag.
Oh yeah, it's big. It is big back.
Big bag.
You are never unbigging your back with that kind of food.
Listen. And you put your lettuce, your tomatoes, whatever you want to put on that thing. But I'm telling you, y'all, if you ever come to Flint, Michigan, get you some Flint tacos. Now listen, they trying to like gentrify it. They trying to gentrify it.
No.
Don't go to them.
Yeah.
Go to us.
Right.
Go to us. Okay. So we got you. We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you for sure. But I thought she was gonna say breakfast food. That's what I thought she was gonna say.
Oh.
That's what I thought she was gonna say.
Yeah.
Because I whip up your breakfast. I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a
right.
dish.
Yeah.
I see it. All right. Last question. Last question for you guys.
Uh-huh.
Last question. What is each other's favorite restaurant?
Oh.
Ooh. Okay. It differs in location, so I'll just give the style of restaurant.
Okay.
I would say any Brazilian steakhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be Fogo de Chao. She doesn't necessarily go to Texas de Brazil anymore, but like it's Fogo de Chao, I would say is your favorite restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, some people, yeah. Like a Brazilian, I love how Brazilians prep season. Like there is a style in which they prepare their meats, and so a Brazilian steakhouse will always be the right answer. Will always be the right answer.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Lev's favorite restaurant.
Ooh, I don't see. I don't even know if I have one.
Yeah, I don't. Lev is not much of a foodie.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
fair enough.
usually when we go somewhere, he'll ask me like what I'm ordering.
And I'll just order the same thing.
And order the same. It drives me crazy because I'm like, I want to try something else.
Yeah.
You order something different.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when we first met, you were at Flower Child all the time.
Yes, Flower Child a lot. And they healthy.
What's the flower? What's the flower child? What's in
So
there?
Flower Child is a chain restaurant, but it's not all that. Let me just be real. It's not.
What
Really
kind of food they doing? What kind of food they doing?
You're gonna
vegetarian.
get a lot of veggies.
Damn.
Not a lot of meat. It's not gonna be a lot of meat per se. It's really like small dish meals. So don't think it's like portion really small, but it's very healthy. They have like, spicy cauliflower, roasted sweet potatoes, sweet corn with yogurt. Those like your veggies and whatnot. But it's good food, but it's not like, think of elevated Panera without all the bread. Without all the bread, elevated Panera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay.
Yeah, but I mean, if I would say my favorite restaurant that people know, I do like Fogo de Chao too, but it's probably not my favorite. I mean, I can just go anywhere that gives me a good steak. I would say Morton's.
Yeah, I'm a good steak person.
Yeah,
Actually, that's the last question. How
Yeah.
do you like your? That's my last question. My bad. Last question is, how do you like your steak?
Medium well.
Or no, medium.
I want to say,
Yeah.
wow, you savage. You're savage. Medium
I can't.
well.
Yeah.
Well, what do you say? Medium rare or medium well?
Medium.
Medium rare.
It depends on where I'm at too, because if it's like something like Texas Roadhouse or Outback, I don't always have the most confidence in some of these places.
Yeah.
So like, actually, can you cook it a little bit more? But if I'm at like a good steakhouse, medium.
Yeah, same.
I hate that medium. Yeah, I only just got into that like a few years ago.
If somebody say, "Well," they you're savage.
They need deliverance.
I used to eat it well. Can't lie to you. Back in the day, I didn't know, but you know what? Someone put me on, and I realized, you know what? You can't go back once you've gone to the medium. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's just the texture is a little bit better.
Different. Like, yeah. That well is that well. It is well when you do that. It is well when you eat it. It is well when you eat
it. Yeah. I can't do well. You put a well steak in front of me.
I don't want it. I don't want it.
Give me the veggies.
You gotta send it back.
Yeah. Right. Show. That
you gonna do a spicy cauliflower.
Yeah. Spicy cauliflower. See, I'm telling you, man. Somebody went there the other day. They know what I'm talking about.
They said $18 for an expensive bowl of chicken bowl lunch. That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But it's nice, bro. I promise you.
Yeah.
I promise you.
You paid $18 for lettuce and a scoop of chicken. Like, no.
But they have the sauce, all this stuff. Man, you know.
You can do that at home.
Find the things. You know what I'm saying? It's food. It's blood.
I come from a culture where they have the animals like in the backyard and be like, "What you want? You want goat? You want chicken? You want cat?" Like, no.
Yeah.
No. You don't do that.
In the back.
Yeah, it's too savage for me. That's too savage for me. I don't want to see I want to see it walking, and then it's on my plate. It's too savage.
That's how well I want it done. You know what I mean? I want to see it alive.
That's what you call farm to table.
Yeah. No.
That's it, exactly.
No.
From the farm to the table, baby.
Yes.
No. Walking Dead. That's what I call it.
Fresh.
Walking Dead.
Fresh.
Yeah, it's Walking Dead. That brother walking is about to be dead.
Yeah.
For real.
Well, listen, you know what? It's been amazing, Lex and Nev. Thank you for joining us. We'll definitely have you on there again. I'm not going to lie to you, as well. It's been really good. And, maybe we'll have more general conversation about marriage and maybe helping younger people as well navigate that space in general as well. So I think it's always good to have wise people on there. And I think you two are very much have shared some great aspects to your story. And I'm sure there's more to it that we didn't even get to type into because time of always, because there's so much more. So, when we have you back on again, we can explore some more. But I want to thank you both for honouring the call and coming on here as well and just sharing your story. And I hope those who are listening and watching on the replay, watching now, get to really be blessed and know that, Jesus is in all things and that he has a plan and that, no matter how it looks currently, that, like you said, the promise of God never fails as well. So I want to thank you as well. Thank you, Lex.
Yeah. And thank you for having us, Kojo. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, and we have fun, just sharing and talking to you too. So thank you for having us.
Go get these Flint tacos. Right.
Listen, the last one I had tacos was actually in America. I can't lie to you. It was in America. I was in Houston actually. I had tacos. So that's the interesting thing. So maybe I want to come to Dallas. I'll try and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll try and see. We'll see. Big back foods. I don't know what will happen. I'll see. But thank you guys again. I appreciate you. Audience, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Okay, stay safe out there. Yeah. Keep praying. Keep your eyes focused on Jesus as well. And listen, don't forget. Don't be afraid to pray about your future spouses. Okay, people. Okay, all right. Commit that to the Lord. He wants to answer those prayers. So we'll see you again very, very soon. Much love, much appreciation. Ta-ra, ta-ra. Good night.